Good morning, everyone. Welcome back once again to Adventures in Digital Marketing. My name is Rob Orr. I'm the one who's popping up in your feed all the time with these lives and with all the other stuff that I'm talking about. So wanted to come in this morning. It has been a few days since I've done this where we're having some coffee together, but I had something on my mind this morning and I wanted to come in here and talk to you guys about it and see if maybe something from what I'm talking about and what I'm learning could possibly help you or teach you what not to do maybe. Who knows, like I said, this is always an adventure, right? We're trying to talk about the process and documenting what works, what doesn't work, what I'm doing, what results we're having, all of those kinds of things, which is the whole reason that I'm doing these lives. So anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about this morning is my love-hate relationship with sales and selling. And that might sound a little bit odd to you, but I definitely have a big love-hate relationship with sales and selling. But before I get into that, if you're joining me live, please hit me up with a hashtag live below. Just let me know that you're listening, you hear me, everything's coming through okay. Matter of fact, I've got to turn this off over here because that's making a bunch of noise. That's the kind of ambient music that I'm listening to while I'm working. But anyway, like I said, hit me up with a hashtag live below. Let me know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from. I would love to hear about that. So please offer me just that one thing if you don't mind. But anyway, like I said, I have this love-hate relationship with sales, and it goes back to when I first graduated from college. So I graduated from FSU, and I was one of those guys that, I was super excited about graduating. I was so glad to be done with college. I was ready to move on to the next phase of my life, but I didn't have, like many people do, I didn't have like this big cushy job lined up because I had landed this like super incredible internship or anything like that. So I immediately went to work trying to figure out what my path was going to be, and I ended up in sales because I knew that I was going to, I had to make a living, right? And it's not really all that hard to get a sales job. So I was a college graduate, young, single, nothing else to do with my time. So I figured it's time for me to jump in and get to work. So I started working in sales, and I actually was pretty good at it. And so I'm doing this thing and I'm starting to make a little bit of money, and I'm like, I really want to go to the next level with this thing. So I transitioned to a bigger sales job doing business to business sales. And it was absolutely the worst job that I've ever had. I mean, I've had some other bad ones that are pretty comparable, but this one was the absolute worst. It was right when, the internet was really starting to take hold in the early 2000s, and, businesses were moving online, and the world was changing really, really quickly. And I had the unfortunate experience of going to work doing business to business sales for a Yellow Page phone book company. And if you've ever had a job that you hate, hit me up below with a comment. Let me know what that job was. But for me, it was this business to business gig doing sales for a Yellow Pages company that is now, I think they're probably out of business now because the world has just changed so much. As an interesting side note, we recently got a phone book thrown into our driveway. We live in Tallahassee. It's not a big town, but I mean, it was literally, maybe a half-inch thick when, we used to get these big, huge ones. So anyway, because everybody used to go to the phone book, so you could buy an ad in the phone book. So my job was to go and to sell these, ads to businesses here in town. But it was really hard because when you start at the bottom and you start in with a new job with that company, everybody else has already got all of the big businesses. So it's really hard to win new business. And it got to this point that even though I was reading, I was doing my best to keep up and trying to learn as much as I could about sales. it was really brutally difficult to even make any progress in this job. And it was so discouraging, and it was so frustrating, and it was so aggravating that I absolutely dreaded going to work every day. If that sounds familiar to you, hit me up with a comment below. Let me know if you've ever been frustrated. Hit me up with #frustrated, or something like that. Let me know what it's like for you. But if you're anything like me, I was incredibly discouraged, and I ended up leaving that job and moving on to another sales job where it was I had several different sales jobs that kind of stacked up over time, and the last one that I did that was kind of like the final straw for me was I was an account manager for UPS, and there was a lot of good. And if you go back and watch some of my other videos, I talk about some of the great things I learned about online business actually working for UPS. So I would encourage you to go back and watch some of those. But it was another one of those scenarios where it was soul crushing, right? One of the things they did to us, because in any sales job you have quotas, right? You have numbers and targets that you need to be hitting, and if you're not hitting those numbers and targets, then it can mean like a really huge problem. It can be hey, like you're in danger of losing your job because you're not hitting your numbers, kind of thing. And this was back in 2007. And I knew that we were watching stuff that was going on in the economy with the businesses and stuff like that, and we could see that something was coming, and we couldn't quite figure out what was going on. And really what it ended up being was that it was the beginning of the 2007-2008 recession, and we were starting to see the effects of that in our business at UPS, because what was happening was people and businesses were starting to ship a lot less. Their volumes were down, which made our numbers go down from what they were supposed to be. And so I was caught between this love for what I was doing, because I loved working with my clients. I loved the work that I was doing selling. But there was these unrealistic expectations that our sales managers and our area managers had that were absolutely just life draining. And if you've ever had that job, if you've ever been in one of those toxic work environments, let me know below. Hit me up with a comment. Let me know. So just give me #toxic or something, so I know that you guys can hear me and everything is coming through okay. But anyway, the final straw for me was that we had a punishment, right? And they literally did this as a punishment, is that we had to be on a 6 a.m. conference call for those of us that weren't on our numbers. And I'm like, why are we doing this? What is the purpose of doing this? And it was just punitive. It was a way for them to punish us for not hitting our numbers. And even though we had these targets and we had these numbers that we had to hit, but we were literally standing right on the precipice of that 2007-2008 recession and housing crisis and all this stuff, where everything was just coming apart. And so I was stuck in this place, and I was incredibly frustrated, because I hated going to work every day. I hated the fight. I hated the having to have my manager come ride with me, which was always presented as a coaching thing, but it always carried some more nefarious kinds of elements with it, which made it really much more challenging to do. And so, but all the while I'm reading, I'm studying, right? I'm continuing to try to learn and to grow in my craft. And what ended up happening was, I just said, enough. I can't do this anymore. I'm obviously not a salesperson, right? I love the science of selling. I was reading Brian Tracy and Jeffrey Gitomer and Zig Ziglar. And, we were doing, all kinds of stuff about closing and high ticket sales. And, I was always listening to like Tony Robbins in my car. And, because I had a lot of windshield time, and, because I was traveling between here and Valdosta and Thomasville, and just kind of going all over the place, right? So, so I'm like, something is going to click here for me. So, but what ended up happening was, I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. So I ended up leaving that. And the good thing is that helped me to become what I am today. I made the transition away from doing a career in sales into doing what I'm doing today, which is where I'm much more satisfied. I have a deep sense of satisfaction. But here's the deal. The biggest challenge that I have is, this idea that, of having these challenges in the work that I did, that I couldn't make things happen, right? And it put into me this false belief that I wasn't any good at sales, that I was, that I sucked, that, even despite the fact that I was studying, despite the fact that I was working hard, despite the fact that I was showing up and doing my thing, I felt like I sucked, that I just wasn't any good at it. And it was really discouraging and really frustrating to me, so when I left my career in sales, really felt, like I just was a failure as a salesperson. So, but then in my career transition to doing web design and development, I started to figure out, how all of those things that I learned during those years in sales actually trained me really freaking well for my work that I do as a web designer and developer, about how to write pricing agreements, about how to write pricing quotes, about how to uncover pain points for my customers and how to talk to them and communicate them. Because I went to all kinds of different sales training. They were always sending us out for different trainings. I did like a 6-week training at one point. I was actually in Charlotte, North Carolina for several weeks. But, I took all of that stuff. I'm like, this stuff still applies to everything that I'm doing in web design and development and trying to be an entrepreneur. So it was an eye opener for me as I've kind of figured this out over the last couple of years, that all of those things that I learned in sales are actually still serving me now. So that's really what I wanted to connect with you about is, look at the other areas of your life where you've been spending time or energy or effort, and how can those things complement you in what you're trying to do now, right? For me, I had all those years of experience working in business to business sales, and it's transitioned me really well to being accustomed to dealing with big contracts and big proposals and big projects and working through the sales process with clients. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because I've always had this love-hate relationship. Like I said, I started really frustrated with it and felt like a failure, but ended up being in a really good place where all of those skills are serving me now. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys this morning. I hope everybody's doing okay. For those of you who have been with me live, thank you so very much. If you're watching on the replay, please hit me up with a hashtag replay so I just know what's going on. So if you got questions, please put a question below in the comment. Let me know where you're watching from. I want to connect with you guys. That's why I'm doing this, right? I'm doing this because I'm trying to get to know people and to connect more so that you guys know me, that I know you guys more, and that we can grow together in this fun entrepreneurial thing that we're doing with online business. You guys have a great day. Take care. Bye.